Hello everyone, this is Godlike Gaming Crew with your host Bato323, and today's topic, how to play the medic in Battlefield 1. Now, those of you who used to play Call of Duty or are now starting to play Battlefield 1, you'll notice something interesting about this game. The graphics right off the bat look 10 times better than those of Call of Duty games, but there's also more game mechanics than you're used to in a simple Call of Duty game. When I say that, I don't mean you're literally not wall jumping, you're not sliding around constantly, trying to give yourself the upper hand in order to take down an enemy with one shot or a quick scoping sniper shot. In this Battlefield game developed by DICE, there's a little bit more realism that's involved with this game. That means going from bright areas into dark rooms into bright areas, that kind of blooming effect. Not to mention that when you're shooting at very long distances, there is bullet drop, which you do have to compensate for when you're using the appropriate weapons. In today's conversation, we're focused again on the medic. So for new Battlefield 1 players, as well as for, as I mentioned before, COD players that are not used to playing Battlefield, this will be a nice quick tip for you. When playing the medic in any kind of game mode, in this case, the gameplay is shown playing a team deathmatch. Personally, I like using the medkit pouch. Now, the reason for that is because if you use the kind of medical field box that you can drop once you've used your war bonds to unlock that particular support, it requires that your team to stand around near that box in order to be healed. Now, that's great if you're in a squad of, let's say, 5 of your team members and you're in a much larger scale type of warfare, such as operations, conquest, any of those kind of larger rush mode type games. However, again, as I mentioned, the only reason I don't like using that particular field box is because when you use that box, you have to stay near that box to be healed. And when you're doing so, it kind of puts you in a tight situation. You have to be stuck waiting for yourself to be healed before you can move on. Whereas if you use the field medical kit pouch, which is the one I recommend, which is the one that's immediately given to you at launch of being a medic, it immediately can heal any individual player to max health just by simply tossing that pouch directly at them or at their feet, and those players can quickly run up and pick it up. And that, I feel, is the key difference between the two, the box versus this pouch, and especially for quick games like Team Deathmatch, that pouch is essential because, one, as you're running, you can throw it in front of you, you'll walk right on over it, immediately pick it up for yourself, and if you just finished from a skirmish with 1 or 2 enemy players, you can immediately heal yourself, as well as you can immediately look at the health of your other friendlies and see what their health's at, and immediately just toss them a med kit. So that way, one, you get the immediate health points as a medic towards your XP by directly healing that player. Because again, if you're using that medical field box and you toss that down, that player has to recognize that they have low health and then need to stand near that box to gain that health. There is no kind of auto AI or UI interface that kind of shows other players this is the maximum range you need to stand in order to get that health. As soon as they kind of walk away, they're not getting more of that health, and they continue on with their fight. However, with that field pouch, you immediately toss it right at them. They immediately just pick it up without even having to ask you. And you'll get their medical points for obviously healing your friends. And then they'll also get healed as well, which is great. And your points do double up when you're in your friendly squad and you heal your own squad mates. This shows up as green on your friendlies when you're playing within a squad on your team, and you also get kind of an extra little boost of about 15 points per burst of health when you heal those within your squad, on top of the normal heal points you get in terms of points for yourself as a medic when you're healing other friendlies within your team. Especially when it comes to team deathmatch, I feel that using the medic is pretty much the most essential player in the entire game, because you also have the opportunity to revive using the syringe. You simply push right on the D-pad by default and you'll pull out the syringe. Now, you got to be a little careful, because at least for me, whenever I was trying to do that, I might accidentally push up on the D-pad instead and throw on my gas mask while trying to pull out the syringe, which is a little stupid on my part. But if you're careful, or unless you got a really good game controller and your inputs aren't mistaken, pushing right on the D-pad pulls out the syringe by default, again, unless you remapped which field equipment that you want to use for the left and right on the D-pad. But as soon as you pull that out, you basically hold it with the right trigger to kind of fill up on the adrenaline, and then immediately eject the downed player that has a skull over him for that specific amount of time. As soon as you got that timer that's still available and you eject that player, they usually, no matter what, will revive at 50 health points with that injection. And then with that, you can quickly hit left on the D-pad, throw them in the pouch, and instantly they're pretty much healed up pretty quickly all the way back up to 100%. Again, in Team Deathmatch, it is very important because it puts those players right back in the field, reinforces that area that you were pushing on against other players, and also helps to boost, again, your points as a medic to really boost up your XP for leveling up and hopefully getting those battle packs. The next thing I want to talk about is the weapons. What kind of weapon to use as a medic. Now, as a medic, you don't really get a whole lot of options other than semi-auto rifles as well as potential full auto rifles. One of the first to purchase is referred to as the sweeper in Battlefield 1, and it's worth 200 war bonds. There's a few other variations. Just get yourself the standard factory sweeper rifle, because that one does come with a fixed bayonet, and you can upgrade the iron sights or to the buckhorn, where they kind of curve a little bit towards the tip at the front end post of your rifle. That's personally the one I like to use. And the reason I say immediately get that sweeper rifle versus the keeping the standard rifle that you usually get with the game with that particular class is because the sweeper, while it does have a little less damage compared to a lot of the other rifles, this rifle can be fired in full auto mode. Now, the rate of fire isn't necessarily as great as the submachine gun that you get as an assault person, but it's fast enough and the control is amazing on this gun that you can pretty much hose enemy players down, and within 2 to 3 shots, as long as they're torso to headshots, you'll instantly kill players. And as you'll see throughout my gameplay, using that sweeper, you're able to take down 2-3 players at a time without having to reload. Not to mention, the clip size on the sweeper is 21 rounds, which is great. Whereas with other rifles, yes, you can still shoot them at full auto, and they come in magazine sizes of 10 to 20, but because the recoil is so high on those other rifles, you really do want to use that sweeper. Range-wise, it's not so great, especially when you're trying to pick off enemy snipers or other players across the map. You'll have to really take your time to take precision shots and not just hold down that trigger and start hosing down. But if you're careful, you can actually pick off players again using this sweeper and not have to use something that has an immense amount of recoil like the standard rifle that you first start off with. I forget the name, and I personally don't really care for it, again, because as soon as you get 200 war bonds from continuously playing as any of the other classes, but through leveling up, you'll get war bonds and unlocks from the use of a particular weapon. But as soon as you get those war bonds, at least 200 of them, immediately buy yourself the sweeper. It is worth every penny for this game. And that leads me to my final advice when playing as a medic. Play aggressively with this character, as well as heal anyone, not including just your squad mates, but anyone on your side. As soon as you see low health, immediately toss them that med kit. It boosts up your XP that you gain at the very end of a match, win or lose. And on top of that, because I say to play aggressively, using that sweeper, you really can hold your own against other assault class players. And in fact, I've had a few instances where I face up players using a shotgun. I take them down with the sweeper faster than they can rack up another round using the shotgun. And because the damage is so much higher, I can usually take down assault players using that submachine gun within 2 to 3 hits max. And because it has a fixed bayonet, you can also rush players and bayonet them at the same time, which is great. Overall, I'd say the medic class is actually even better suited for assaulting than the assault class. The assault class is useful depending on the scenarios, but I would say at the very least for team deathmatch, medic is definitely, at least by the default, the way to go if you want to keep yourself alive, especially after, fighting a couple skirmishes with other random players that you see on the screen. It is nice to immediately just drop down a medical pouch, run right up, heal yourself, and then if other players on your team or even your own squad show up and they show up with low health, just go ahead and heal them, and you're able to continue with your wave of 5-6 guys on the field attacking the players as they spawn elsewhere on the map. Anyway, that's the end of my ramblings. Again, this is the Battlefield 1 medic tips and how to play, as well as showing off some team deathmatch gameplay as a medic to show what you can do when you have the right kind of setup, as well as using the sweeper weapon. Again, highly recommended you unlock that with 200 war bonds as soon as you've earned that through multiplayer. This has been Bato323 with Godlike Gaming Crew signing off.